Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before. Imagine tuning in to real-time discussions, expert analyses, and fan interactions all at your fingertips. Each platform offers a unique experience, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We're not just sharing stories, we're creating a community of passionate sports enthusiasts. Join us as we dive deep into the evolution of podcasting, where every episode is a chance to engage, debate, and celebrate the world of sports. This is where your voice matters and the game never stops. Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before, where sports passion meets podcasting brilliance. I'm Mike, the Bear fan, and alongside Bill, the Packer fan, and our buddy Ken Catalone, we're bringing you an incredible lineup of 38 diverse podcasters. Each one brings their unique flavor to the table, covering everything from game analysis to behind-the-scenes stories. Imagine diving deep into the minds of experts who live and breathe football, sharing insights that you won't find anywhere else.
And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on the Huddle Sports Network. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Just Lions, Red Wings, and Pistons to talk about. So let's get right down to it. Well, the Lions can't win them all. They ran to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and lose 48-42. The Lions fell behind 14-0 because their offense fell flat. I know their defense is banged up, so that's out of the question. 559 total yards, which is understandable. The onside kick, which is actually Dan Campbell had no choice, of course. And then Dan Campbell, just after the game, he took blame. He took the hit for not preparing his active players. But, Ed, I'm going to leave this one to you.
Well, listen, I know Dan Campbell did the right thing as a coach. You should do. You should always be at the forefront for any and all sorts of accountability, whether it be deflecting blame, whether it be or shielding and protecting players for not doing right. It's admirable. It's one reason why players buy into what a coach wants to believe and say and makes them want to play for them even harder. But again, like you said, Taylor, what is Dan Campbell supposed to do? What is Aaron Glenn supposed to do, frankly, for that matter, with the defense that he's currently being given? When you're playing nothing but backups and practice squad players and dudes that haven't been used to the playbook or that have just been here for like 2 weeks because you have, again, 14, 15, 16 people on IR right now as we speak. Again, it seems like the number keeps getting higher and higher every week for that specific designation. But even still, it's just ridiculous to look at the number that we have suffered, but that we have lost due to injuries so far. And not to mention the fact that these were people that were on our day one roster, guys in the front seven specifically, and especially at the linebacker side, which proved to be a big difference in this game as well. But in this game alone, we saw more injuries start to pile up. So when you see guys like Aleem McNeil, who was frankly your best defensive lineman outside of Aiden Hudson this year, tear his ACL, now he's gone. Then you see Carlton Davis, who's, mind you, he's already been battling a couple of injuries himself. Most notably, his hand was still wrapped up. Now he's out for the foreseeable future with a broken jaw. Add to that Khalil Dorsey, one of his backups, he came in, fractures his legs, very similar to how we saw Hutchinson injure his leg. So now he's done. And then, of course, you top it off with the fact that David Montgomery injured his MCL in this. It was just like bad, on top of worse, on top of horrible. So when you're in that spot and you know your defense is getting shredded up and down the field, there's a couple of things. You need to make every possession count on offense, and if necessary, you have to steal a possession or two back. Dan Campbell knew this. That's why he went for the onside kick. Obviously, no one was expecting Buffalo to take it all the way down to the damn 5-yard line. But guess what? That's the risk that you live with. It's the risk-reward factor of that type of situation. And not to mention the fact that, even if they were to kick it deep, you really think that defense was going to stop Buffalo from going down the field, which was going to, to chew up clock, and B, likely give up another touchdown anyway. So it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. again, what I mentioned before earlier with the linebackers being decimated to injury, that's how you saw, for example, Ty Johnson, who was a running back, mind you. But when you're facing a good running back against backup linebackers, you get the results of what you get, which is 5 receptions for 114 yards. Those specific passing plays, those were the key plays in those early scoring drives that proved to be backbreakers for the Lions to overcome. You set the 14-0 start, and that was just in the first half because, again, credit to Buffalo's defense. They made sure that Detroit did not get off or not to be the first ones out of the gate with their scoring. And Oliver, for example, particularly was a tremendous force disrupting up front. He had a sack. He had 3 QB hits. There was a couple plays on that in that game where I thought he completely owned Graham Glasgow. And I'll be honest, if we can have an honest discussion, this has not been the best year, so to speak, in terms of consistency for the offensive line. Granted, we've had more consistent lineups, as in not too many people on the O-line have been banged up and hurt week to week, the way we saw last year, rather. If anything, the only consistent entry on the offensive line front has been Taylor Decker for the most part. But even still, I'm not quite impressed with what I saw in that game from the offensive line. And you saw some worrying concerns, whether it be injury or age, as to, hey, what can you do to make sure that this offensive line doesn't become a weakness over the next sort of course a couple of years outside of Penei Sewell. But even still, bad day at the office for the Detroit People Movers, but even still, credit must be given to the Buffalo defense. That being said, Jared Goff, I would like to say he delivered an outstanding performance. He's, even though the fact that he threw for 59 times, almost 60 times, usually that's not a recipe that you want for Detroit. But in case this is the only thing that they had to resort to at this point, because Monty went out, and before that, the running game had been completely stifled. So Goff had to adjust to that, and thankfully, Ben Johnson himself did as well. That's when we saw plays like Dan Skimper getting a touchdown pass thrown his way. But even Goff himself, 494 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 turnovers, 0 interceptions, despite throwing the ball 59 times. That's remarkable. Amon-Ra St. Brown showing out despite coming up with food sickness before the game. 14 catches, 193 yards, and a touchdown himself. Very remarkable. So, again, let's not forget, people, this team still put up 42 points. It's clearly obvious at this point in the game, with the injuries to their defense, the only way to beat this Lions team is to outscore them. And frankly, when you look at the fact that Detroit did have a couple of key mistakes, i.e., slow starts to each of the first half, i.e., the fumble by Amon-Ra St. Brown, and i.e., the missed field goal by Jake Bates, all those little miscues add up to points on the other end for the other team, to the point where, hey, that's the difference in the ball game, where it's decided, where the margin is ultimately.
They keep setting the tone.
Exactly. It set the tone in the first half, just as it did in the second half. Buffalo did a tremendous job of being ready out the gate, knowing what they had to do out the gate to establish momentum, because, right, they knew if the Lions had scored first or was able to keep up pace with them, they would have been able to implement their run game much better, which would have set up the play action pass better. They didn't. Buffalo got on top first. They stayed ahead, which, of course, put Detroit behind at spots where they couldn't go to their bread and butter, go to their usual game plan. So we got to give credit to the Bills, because, listen, let's not forget, they did beat the Chiefs. Josh Allen likely is sealed up the MVP with this type of performance. 410 total yards, 4 total touchdowns. If you were going to lose to any team, injuries or not, this was a team that was going to likely beat you. Because, like I said, I did, to be fair, I did pick the Bills to win last week's game for the similar reasons that I just brought up.
Except in a low-scoring affair, you predicted 24-23.
Yeah, well, I was expecting at least a little more better resistance in the red zone, but clearly that proved not to be the case, because what James Cook also was pardon his name, was cooking our defense as well. 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. So when you have that, you can just throw the scores and stuff out the window. But again, despite what you think of the score, I did pick Buffalo to win based on the factors that I mentioned last week and what I'm bringing up again here.
In other words, you sort of got it. You sort of got it right. The
win's a win.
Right. Yeah,
the win is the win.
Yeah, for the Bills.
Yeah.
Couple things here. The Lions did get Josh Pascal and other players back, like Josh Pascal and DJ Reader. on the defensive front, but even that wasn't enough. And the
Even
onside
still,
kick.
even still, though, that's why you saw the impact of having guys like Alexander Zaloni, for example, being out. How much of a difference that could be, because a guy like him does not let those plays to Ty Johnson happen. Does not let Josh Allen move around and get out of the pocket the way he did to create those improvising big plays. So
Right.
Anzalone's absence was absolutely noticeable in that game.
Yeah. And then the onside kick, which again I don't mind. If you're gonna attempt an onside kick, make sure you put some English on it. There was no English on that onside kick. If you put English on it, hear me out. It could cause the receiving team. It could cause the receiving team to fumble the ball, at least giving you a chance to recover it and get it back.
Well, I've seen Jack Fox
kind of like in pool, shooting pool.
I've seen Jack Fox pull off some better onside kicks before. I mean, I don't know if that was Bates or Fox who did the onside kick, but they pulled out better onside kicks off before.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Just a tip.
That was the right guy to have. Well, again, it is admittedly a low percentage play for a reason, but like I said, I don't think anyone was anticipating the Bills to have that big return the way they did after recovering the onside kick. So that was an unforeseen occurrence.
Right. But again, it was just a tip. Yeah, thought I'd make it a little bit more interesting for any team to attempt to, i.e., the Lions, Eagles, Rams, any team, even college or high school football. Just want to throw that out there as a suggestion. But David Montgomery with his injured MCL, we hear news that he avoided season-ending surgery and could be back at some point in the playoffs. And I gotta say, whew, my God,
massive sigh of relief. And I'm sure after hearing his initial diagnosis on Monday, it felt like oh my goodness, everything's gonna go off the cliff type of moment. But thankfully, I don't know who else within the Lions fan was able to keep calm or maintain composure. But after waiting to hear things out, seeing how, again, the reaction from everyone else, the way they reacted to it, whether it be Jahmyr Gibbs giving interviews, Jared Goff giving his press conference or his interviews, and of course we all know of the now viral radio interview that Dan Campbell had on 97.1 with Jim Costa and John Jansen. But those type of reactions from those key people are exactly what the fan base needed to hear. And also, obviously, it's the team what they need to hear as well. But they already knew that. And this was probably discussed internally within themselves anyway, or this was projected publicly. But This was obviously what the doom and gloom portion of the fan base needed to hear, that reassurance, that step back from the ledge type of reassurance. Because you got to remember, we do have guys that know how to execute things that are essential to the culture that's been built here, and also key guys that, frankly, if you heard of past comments or past references, why they're in this spot. Like if you remember Hard Knocks a couple of years back, coaches were saying, "Do not cut Craig Reynolds, because if you do, you're going to piss off some people on this team." We know how much Craig Reynolds means, or is one example of an embodiment of that team in their words and what they talk about in that culture. So when you have a guy like Craig Reynolds who can deliver punishing blocks for you and also carry the rock when necessary, knows the assignments, knows what to do, put him behind the best offensive line in football and the best offensive coordinator in football, you have trust in what he can do, because okay, Jahmyr's going to get more of a workload in the time being. People are going to try to center up on him, try to take him out of his game. So guess what? Get more Craig Reynolds involved with simple, straightforward runs. Don't try to complicate it. Just give him the simple, straight run designs, simple zones, or power traps, or whatever the case may be. This is also a chance for you to get more out of Sione Vaki. I know you've been seeing him on special teams and whatnot, and also putting him on defense, but this is an excellent time for him to showcase his running back ability, which was on display during the preseason, mind you. So this is why you have those reps as much as you can early on. for a momentous situation like this. It is very good to note that Monty was able to seek a second opinion and a third opinion, and is looking like that he's going to avoid that IR status. So, like you said, he may be available at some point during the playoffs. We just don't know when. So that's the thing that we need to know and note about this injury situation. Yes, it's dire. It is not what anyone wants to see or what anyone was hoping for. But you got to remember, some of these guys are coming back. Anzalone, he's coming back. Khalif Raymond, he's coming back.
Ifeatu
More people.
Melifonwu.
Exactly. Thank you. Ife Melifonwu, he's coming back. Emmanuel Mosley, the window will be started on him. And it's Rakestraw, he's going to be coming back soon. And dare I say it, as evidenced by the clips that are being shown and displayed on social media this week, if the Lions were to get to the Super Bowl, do not rule out for 1 second that Aiden Hutchinson won't be there. Because the man himself has now come out and said it. If you guys get there, I promise you I will be there. If that is not enough motivation for you to want to see this out to the end, to get to the Super Bowl, to try to hold things together as long as possible, I don't know what else can be.
Right. And then when Hutchinson joins that pass rush with Pascal and DJ Reader, I know McNeil's not gonna make it to the Super Bowl, but other guys
Still got Zadarius on the other end though.
Zadarius Smith, yes,
Right.
That's right. Yep.
Hutch,
He was
Zadarius,
resting.
Reader, Onwuzurike, Pascal, rotate Broderick Martin a couple of times. Al Quadin Muhammad, who's been making a name for himself as of late. There's guys that you could use on there. Like I know Trevor Noah, like again, I think I mentioned Jalen Reeves Maven. If I haven't, I'll mention him again. His window's been started as well.
Along with Brian Branch.
Right. But even still, Branch, we'll get to that in the injury report when we get to the Chicago preview. But still, these guys are coming back slowly but surely. As long as you can hold the fort, get to the playoffs, see what you can do to get that 1 seed, get that extra week of rest, you'll be fine. Simple.
Yep. And it starts at Soldier Field when the Lions take on the Bears in a rematch. Now, we all know what happened. Sunday at 1 on Fox, by the way, the Lions are 6.5-point favorite. But as I was just saying, we all know what happened at Ford Field on Thanksgiving against those Bears. Lions went up 16-0. Gibbs fumbled the football, giving the Bears momentum. Bears came back. Matt Eberflus struck yet again, giving the Lions the gift right at the end. Just one play after that key 6-yard sack by Zadarius Smith, as you mentioned before. But Caleb Williams threw 3 touchdown passes to DJ Moore, Kmet, Montez Sweat.
No, it was just DJ Moore and Keenan
Moore.
Allen. Don't forget him.
Keenan
Allen and DJ Moore with the touchdown receptions, but Keenan had the 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's right. True, but those are still dangerous weapons out there for the Bears. Of course. So
you did mention Odunze, correct?
Dunze. I kept his eyes on him. That this past Monday night, in Minnesota, when the Bears were falling flat in Minneapolis against the Vikings. It's a first place tie, by the way, between the Lions and Vikings for the NFC North, by the way. But
we have the tiebreaker since we beat Minnesota, so I'm not worried about that. It's called handle your own business and do it right.
Thank God. So the Lions are going to come out angry at Soldier Field while the Bears, already being eliminated, they're just shut down.
Well, they may be shut down, and Caleb Williams has been struggling as of late because, like you said, going back, I believe to that Hail Mary play against the Commanders, the Bears have now lost 8 straight games, and that includes the endings against the Packers and, of course, the endings against the Lions. But they also got dismantled by the 49ers, and we saw what happened last Monday night against the Vikings. Caleb Williams is having struggles. He's getting beat up. He's thrown less than 200 yards passing in consecutive games. He's been sacked 58 times total this year. That is clearly the most of any quarterback in the entire NFL, and it's from a rookie. So I don't care who you are. That's going to do something to your confidence and to your psyche on some level degree, getting hit that many times. Yeah, he's thrown for 286 consecutive passes without an INT so far. That's a rookie record. But even still, you know, that's not going to mean nothing if you're not having an offensive line that's giving you right protection and you're not getting enough out of your run game. For example, or like with guys like DeAndre Swift at your disposal. So it's still all on Caleb to try to do what he can to win games for this team on the most part, and teams are figuring that out. They've strategized around that, and they decided, okay, we know what his game is. I know what he likes to do, and especially in terms of he still hasn't learned to properly protect himself with how he runs the ball. So just beat the hell out of him, and we see how it's paying effects.
Exactly. And the Lions defense just needs to jump on that and take advantage of that. Play 60 minutes and get a much better start with our offense and get ahead, set the tone, and let the defense do the rest of the work.
That's got to be the key. You got to do what you couldn't do last week against Buffalo. You got to make every single possession count. Even at the start of each half, you got to find a way to get some kind of points, even if it is a field goal. Just moving on, because moving the ball downfield is going to chew a fuck. Take the ball up, keep the ball away from a guy like Caleb Williams, who is, let's not forget what he did in the second half of that game in Thanksgiving. Despite his faults and what he's been going through, he's still a tremendous offensive talent, a tremendous player overall. There's a reason why Chicago picked him number 1 overall. There's a future with that young man. So you can't overlook that because he can still shred you, especially against a defense like this. So if you're on the offense, you've got to make every single possession count. Learn from your mistakes last week against Buffalo and apply them here in this game. I already mentioned the running back room shuffles, which means you're going to get more of a workload for Jameer, probably 10 or 15 more touches than he usually gets. And I'll say this, even though things weren't working in the run game, they were able to utilize Jameer out of the backfield with the pass. He had about 83 or so yards through the air. So again, he did have another game where he had at least 100 or more yards from total scrimmage. So I would say that should be the game plan of how to utilize Jameer, as many with those 10 to 15 extra touches, more swing passes, more screens, besides the usual just hand it off to him, because the more that you get him out in open space at the start of each play throughout the course of the game when everyone else is getting tired, the more that's to your benefit. So that's what you can expect for Jameer. I already mentioned Sione Vaki and Craig Reynolds. Another name worth mentioning is Jamar Jefferson. Scotty Montgomery, the running backs coach, said this could be an opportunity for a guy like Jamar to make a name for himself, to show up and get and improve the most of his opportunity. Because, to quote Dan Campbell himself again, this is an unbelievable opportunity that these guys are getting now. So now they have to make the most of it. We mentioned the injury report already, Taylor. Some guys that I already mentioned that are already put on the window to return. Other guys that were had limited amount of practice this week. Precaution and rest. I know we saw names pop up like Decker again and Brian Branch and Trevor Nowalski, but for the most part, it looks like just about most of those guys are going to be okay to go. It was just being held out on limited practice for precautionary reasons.
Yeah, they just got worn out in that game against the Bills. Let me tell you that.
Yeah,
it was a
really
struggle.
did.
It was a war.
Yeah, and at this point, you got to realize, okay, maybe you may have to go with a different strategy of how you approach your game weeks from here on out. Because you don't want your already worn out team to get more hurt. So you got to do what you got to do in that regard.
Exactly. So the Lions are, like I said, 6.5 point favorites. I'll let you take the first prediction. I don't even know.
This Lions team, even still the way they're currently built, provided that they execute in the red zone on their end of the offense, they can beat this Bears team by a touchdown. I could see it being a close game, just like on Thanksgiving, because how these divisional games go, and it's on the road, and possibly expect inclement weather or bad weather conditions like we did against Green Bay. So that's why the defense, for example, is practicing out right now. Practice this week out in the cold. Terry Arnold posted about it on his social media. So if you establish that mentality beforehand, it can prove dividends for you in game time. I'm still having faith that this offense is the best offense in the league. We have the best O-line in the league. we can utilize our run game, and Jared Goff has been playing at an MVP level and still has all the other weapons that you have on offense. Utilize that, maximize your possessions, score touchdowns, and you'll be fine. Granted, you always would love to get a takeaway or two, and I think you'll be more than likely to get it from Caleb this week than you would have last week against Josh Allen, who, by the way, again, another big reason why he's the likely MVP. He has cut down on the turnovers tremendously this year. That was his kryptonite last year. He obviously fixed that for this year. So when you combine that with a player who has the skills that he has, he's damn near unstoppable to beat or defend against. So again, Caleb still has ways to go in terms of fixing that aspect of his game. So I would say if you're a Kirby Joseph, or if you're a Brian Branch, or if you're an Iffy Melifano even, keep your eyes open, because there's a good chance that Caleb is going to give you a prime opportunity at least once or twice throughout the course of this game.
Yep. So I did check, before we make our predictions, I did check the weather in Chicago on the Weather Channel app on my new iPhone 16 Pro. Chicago, no precipitation whatsoever, just a little bit of wind as high as 12 or 13 miles an hour by the end of the game, by game's end. Just
that wind could still be a factor, though, especially when it comes down to the kicking game.
Yeah. And then it'll just ramp up to as high as 15 miles an hour by later in the evening by 8 p.m. And that's it. So you go first.
I say Lions 34-27, 34-27 Detroit.
Yeah. I'm going to go 31-23 Lions by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So that Lions and Bears Sunday at 1 on Fox. Lions look to sweep the Bears, unlike last year. The Red Wings,
say this: a big, this getting a win like this would be obviously great for the mental's psyche, trying to get over what happened last week, what's been happening the past few weeks, and also a reminder that with another win, you get closer to that goal of A, winning the division, and B, getting that number 1 seed. So to borrow a line that was once said by Mark D'Antonio, our goals are still in front of us. That should be the mindset that the Lions need to embrace, and I believe they will embrace that for this game and for the rest of the season. Our goals are still in front of us.
Yep.
You're still 12-2. It's not the end of. You're still 12-2. It's not the end of the world.
Right. That's a damn good record. Chiefs are still 13-1, but the Eagles are 12-2. The race is still on. But anyway, Dan Campbell said bounce back. That's the thing. That's the key. Anyway, the Red Wings, they beat the Maple Leafs 2-1, and then they beat the Flyers 6-4. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. They're now up to 30 points, 6th place in the not-so-Atlantic division, 13-14-4. Oh man, the Red Wings, as Ken Cow would say, were looking for revenge against John Tortorella and the Philadelphia Flyers. Red Wings went up 4-2. They blew it, but Patrick Kane got the game winner. Moritz Seider the assist. Moritz Seider with playing a big role in that penalty kill late in the game. After Kane got called for tripping, but my goodness, what a penalty kill, especially by Moritz Seider and then Lucas Raymond, the empty netter. Kane also making a good pass to Alex DeBrincat. Dylan Larkin scoring a goal against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was a good revenge game for the Red Wings against those Flyers, especially. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And Frank, especially after the 3-goal loss that they gave him just a couple games prior. But I think now, Taylor, what you're seeing, because I think right now we're starting to see a slow development or realization of what the Red Wings, what they realize, what their identity has to be for the time being, if they want to find themselves a chance to compete for the playoffs. They need to embrace the fact that they have players who have strengths on the offense. Understand you have deficiencies on the defense, but accentuate the strengths that you have on offense to the best chance that you have possible. So what we've seen as a result, you're seeing them score at least try to score 3 or 4 goals or more per game. You're seeing your best players produce and give you the right production that's necessary to help you win these games, like Sider, like Raymond, like Kane, like Larkin, like DeBrincat. Like in this last game, for example, Kane, Raymond, and Larkin, that's your 3 best players. They were at least 3 of your best players when you consider them and then the other names I just mentioned. But look, each of those dudes notched 2 points. If we see a steady diet of that on a more consistent basis, you live with the results. You take your chances because that means your offense is doing what needs to be done to win the game at very least. And at some point, you just have to make sure that's not necessarily relying on good defense, but just better goaltending.
Exactly.
Does this mean that your goalie has to stand on his head? Not really, because when your offense is rolling the way that they're rolling right now, you just need to make sure that your goalie doesn't turn into a sieve.
Right. Alex
Whoever,
Lyon
and
was
that
just
goes for
called
whoever's
back.
in that. It could be Husso or whoever.
Yeah, Husso was reassigned to Grand Rapids, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's
And they brought up
back to
Casa,
Lyon and
right?
Talbot. Yep. Back to Lyon and Talbot. What were you asking?
I thought, didn't they bring up Casa as well?
Yeah, he did. He got a win. He did give up 2 goals, but shined at the third period. That was in Buffalo. That was the first of those 3 wins in their last 4 games. But Kosa was sent right back down, right before Husso. But Husso did stand tall against the Maple Leafs in their win. That was quite a piece of work right there by Billy Husso. Husso's been red hot, except with the exception of that 4-1 Philadelphia loss on the road. But it's just good to see like a third string goaltender actually step up. Husso was under a contract a few years ago, back in 2020, in the 2022 offseason, when Yzerman signed him and decided to buy with David Perron, Shane Gostisbehere, JT Conference, all those other guys. And Husso was really struggling in net the past 2 years, but look at him now. He's starting to catch on fire.
Well, at this point, like you said, you hope he keeps it up. But again, like I said before, the Red Wings may have figured out their formulaic identity to how they're going to have to win games this year. Have adequate goaltending and be the best offense that you can be night in and night out. Stop worrying about the defense. Embrace your strengths.
Exactly. The Red Wings have a home-and-home set against the Montreal Canadiens Friday at home, Saturday in Montreal at Bell Center. Both games drop their pucks at 7. The Red Wings are home against the St. Louis Blues on Monday, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs again on Friday, and then they got the Washington Capitals a week from Sunday at 5:00, and then they have the Pittsburgh Penguins Tuesday the 31st, New Year's Eve at 8:00. That is going to be on FanDuel Sports Network Detroit, of course. Yeah, all those games are on FanDuel Sports Network Detroit. That to wrap up 2024. So some pretty key games for the Red Wings after that home set against those Canadiens.
Basically, you want to flip the count. You want to flip the counter over with a good amount of momentum on your head, a good amount of momentum on your shoulders to give you a chance to say, "Hey, what position are we approaching in the first half of the season?"
Yep, exactly. Man, oh man, the Pistons, they barely squeak one out against the Miami Heat. They blew up such a big lead. They just collapsed in the fourth quarter, allowed the Heat to tie it and force overtime. Then the Heat jumped out in front, but the Pistons came back with big threes from Tim Hardaway Jr., putting the Pistons back in the lead, and then Hardaway with a silly pass to nobody in particular, turning the ball over. But the Heat just kept missing their shots, and the Pistons just barely held on by the hair of the chinny chin chin to win 125 to 124 in overtime. But earlier tonight against the Utah Jazz, oh my goodness, 48 to 19 in the first quarter. That the Pistons did come back, but only to come close as like 8 in the fourth quarter, and that's all I can remember. But
it was too close. It was too big of a deficit to overcome. Inexcusable, completely inexcusable to give up 48 points in a first quarter beat, to give up that type of deficit of margin to a team that, mind you, coming into this game had only 5 wins in the season. 5 wins. You let a 5-win team come into your place and drop a carpet bomb on you in the first quarter. That's inexcusable. Cade Cunningham, the only Pistons starter with double-digit points. Forget the fact that he had 33 points and was probably one of only 3 people out there that had a pulse. The only starter in double-digit points. Tobias Harris, what are we paying you all this money if you're going to keep taking brick after brick after brick? Tim Hardaway Jr. had a nice overtime period against Miami, but now it seems like he's turning into Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Asar Thompson, I can't be too mad at him because he just got back. He's been showing his worth in other games. He's been showing improvement in his jump shot tonight, which is an off night for him. Malik Beasley, he's got 26 points off the bench. He's doing his thing perfectly. I'm not complaining about that. Fontecchio, though, my guy, why are you a ghost out there? This is just, again, Fontecchio, Harris, Hardaway. Come on, even Duran is being inconsistent. And I grant you, I know that you don't have Isaiah Stewart at the moment, but that's no excuse to be performing like this. How do you have only one starter be in double-digit scoring for your entire team?
Just one.
Completely inexcusable.
Against a 5-win Utah Jazz team, that is freaking embarrassing. Oh my God.
Beyond embarrassing.
Jeez.
At this point, man, you got to consider. I would consider, if you're G-Bay Bickerstaff, do you consider limiting some minutes for some players on that starting lineup and giving more minutes to a guy like Malik Beasley, for example, or a guy like Ron Holland?
Dare I say start at least Beasley, maybe even Holland too, because they've been hot.
I would say start Beasley. Because you can't keep doing this. Cade is busting his ass out there, and he is not getting the right help. He just isn't.
Yeah, J.D. Bickerstaff has to start Malik Beasley even more because right now he's been putting Beasley on the bench way too many times. It's just baffling to most other Pistons fans that I read on X.
I will say that Beasley had 34 minutes tonight, so maybe that should be a sign of things to come. Because
hint, go figure.
That's just
we get that point. Pistons head out west. They travel to the Phoenix Suns, like we touched on last week, Saturday at 9. At the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Monday at 10:30. At the Sacramento Kings, Thursday at 10. And then at the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, a week from Saturday on the 28th at 9. Before the Pistons come back home to tip off with the Orlando Magic.
This is their vaunted early in the season West Coast trip. That usually can make or break their first half. And in a sense, the way the Lakers have been playing, I don't know what the hell's going to happen in that game, but best of luck to you against the Suns and the Kings, because if they don't handle things right on this West Coast trip, it could get real ugly fast. You don't want to see that because you've been seeing strides, you've been seeing improvements, compared to what they were last year. But man, stuff like this cannot keep happening on a night in, night out basis.
And none of those 4 teams are terrible. The Suns are 14-12. The Lakers, 15-12. The Kings, 13-15. And the Denver Nuggets, 14-11.
Yeah, but yeah, again, throw the records out the window. Look at the eye test. You know which teams have been playing better ball as of late and which teams have not.
Exactly.
So, I by the way, since we got the chance, I would recommend, based on what the schedule window's looking like, let's just make next week's episode a Wednesday night instead of Thursday, because that's in between those games for the Pistons on that road trip.
Yeah, Wednesday is Christmas Day, by the way.
Christmas night.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
I don't mind it, because I'll be done with all the gifts and everything else.
Wow. Hey, let's go for it. Just like Dan Campbell on 4th down. Go for it, man. Wow.
Yeah, make this one your gut call.
All right. So, what did we learn?
Well, we learned a few things, actually. We learned that the Pistons have a tremendous, outstanding talent in Kate Cunningham that they are not giving the right support to at the moment. We see improvements on their end from last year, but they need to be more consistent. Tobias Harris is looking like he's being a thief merchant at this point. I would consider getting less minutes to him and less minutes to Tim Hardaway and more minutes to guys like Malik Beasley and Ron Holland. So you got to put the best pieces around Kate to see him win, especially if Jaden Ivey, maybe potential trade piece at some point while you're waiting for Isaiah Stewart to get back. We learned about the Red Wings is that they may be starting to embrace the identity of, hey, we're not a good defensive team, but we still got a lot of firepower on offense. Let's use that to the best of our capability and get as many wins as we can to get us out of this funk. And frankly, what haven't we learned yet about the Lions that we've seen over the past few weeks? Injuries catch up. Their offense needs to do a better job starting out each half. You got to make every single possession count. That means you can't turn the ball over. You can't have 3 and outs. You can't have missed field goals. But you are, again, still in control of your destiny. Your goals are still in front of you. You have a division to clinch. You have a number 1 seed to clinch, and you have players on the way back. So I would say keep calm, take this one game at a time, and you'll be all right in the end.
Yeah, Jake Bates has always been money too. just 2 missed field goals over the year. That's still pretty good. Just only missed 2 of them. One of them was on a bad snap handled by Jack Fox, mishandled by Jack Fox. So that's everything we've learned in this episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like its videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon. Watch its live episodes in full to learn everything. Follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker. Also, join its supporters club. Follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky, and on YouTube at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on X, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Blue Sky, and YouTube at EdSmith313. Free shout-outs go to Allen's Auto Sales in St. Louis, Athletical Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale. Yeah, I spelled that wrong. Hang on a minute. There we go. The B4 Foundation, Best Buy with Geek Squad in Traverse City, Cadillac Grill, Cadillac Nutrition, El Cilantro Taco Shop in Petoskey, Cali Tickets. Call 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. Baldwin Family Healthcare Dental Center in Cadillac for doing my filling. They'll do a crown on February 13th with a Oh, the root canal was already done too, by the way. Hooters of Saginaw. My cup right here. It's a Denise Jewelry in Lake City. Let's roll with it. Rolled Ice Cream in Cadillac. Like them on Facebook. Follow them on TikTok at the Food Mafia LLC, on Instagram at the Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. Michigan Coffee Company in Cadillac. Northern Auto Lab in Lake City. Northern Star Event Rentals, 231-884-8195, and on Facebook. Positive Chimney and Fireplace. Pro Quality Cleaners. The Raven Social Restaurant on South Mitchell Street in downtown Cadillac. Union Barber in Birmingham and Ferndale, United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, United Mobile Power Wash and Dry Ice Works in Southfield, and Well-Being with Catherine Palms in Traverse City. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is a presentation of the Huddle Sports Network. We'll talk next Wednesday on Christmas night. Yes, it's a bold one. We'll wish everybody a Merry Christmas then, won't we?
Certainly.
Yep. Till then, until Christmas Day or night, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips, signing off. But remember, we always observe and detect the truth about Michigan sports, because the truth is out there. Stay on the lookout and hit them with a high.
Take care and stay safe, everyone. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays.